and welcome to Broad Street Hockey. I am your host, Ryan Gilbert, alongside my co-host, Steve Jacot, and we are very happy to be joined tonight by the one and only Jason Myrtetus. Jason, thanks for joining us. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. We have put a bow on that's the latest phase of treatment today, so I'm elated, and I feel I'm still a little beat up from it, and it's going to take a couple weeks to start to see some incremental improvements, but I'm really excited to have kind of gotten through everything that was scheduled back in early January, to wake up tomorrow morning and go, wow, I don't have an appointment to go to, or I don't have, like, my next doctor's appointment isn't until October. That's a really bizarre feeling, but a damn good one.
That's fantastic news. So congratulations. Like, everything you've been through, it's just so tough, and we're just happy to see it, man.
Yeah, it's been quite the journey. It's I got to get to, getting a little stronger. Then I got to get back to rebuilding my mind and body a little bit, and move things forward in a good, healthy direction. And it changes a lot of perspective for sure, what you go through, and what we don't even know if you can endure it, but you find out you can, and you find a way to put one foot in front of the other and keep moving forward. And thank God for this game of hockey, because it's like we were talking before we went live on the air. When I looked at my my healthcare app before I started my treatment, it said, you have 77 upcoming doctor's appointments. And I was like, whoa, how am I going to do this? I can't keep track of anything. I'm not good at that. But the hockey thing came in, snapped in me, and it became about one game at a time, one period of time, one shift, to whatever you want to call it. Cliche. I never had shifts because I was a goalie, but I had to attack it in that way, and having the experience of playing the game for close to 50 years really delivered for me. And it's would help me keep this kind of balanced and focused on what's in front of me, not what's a couple weeks away or a couple months away.
Yeah, it's been awesome to see your fight through the whole thing. You're staying positive, using it as an opportunity to talk about it and empower people and help empower yourself. So 77 appointments. I mean, almost a full 82 game season, or an 84 game season starting in a few years, because we all want more regular season hockey there. But
thank God they didn't expand the CBA before I got diagnosed.
Exactly. And I heard you on Flyers Daily today. Like, the Flyers schedule is released this week. You said it's my schedule too, because I work these games, I work these things. That's so true. It's like, all right, when am I going to be free? When is their off week going to be? So there's
one of those late night Flyers after dark games that you're like bleary eyed for. And I like looking at the schedule, because again, it's like the structure of it becomes the structure of my life. So, and I need that structure. Like, boys, like, I am all over the place. So I need that, and looking at it and going, oh, okay, they're going to go here, they're going to go there, this matchup here, or, a guy like McDavid or Matthew Tkachuk's coming to town here. I love, like, kind of circling things and having those things to look forward to. And a lot of people, I get the notion in basketball and in hockey in particular, and baseball to some degree for some people, like, less games would be better. They'd be more potent. And I do agree with that. But I like the grind of the 82, or what will be 84. I like the ups and downs and the twists and turns, and the surprises and disappointments of a season, both from an individual player standpoint, storylines, and just kind of living through it. Because I just hate the offseason so much. It always pained me as a kid. I remember I had a boombox behind my pillow in my bedroom, and when Gene Hart would say "Good night, good hockey" for the last time of the season, I remember, like, profound sadness as a kid, and I still have it today. Like, I feel like I'm at a loss for a couple of months, kind of without a compass.
Even what am I supposed to do now?
Well, you watch baseball, you chill, okay, but I can do that for a short period of time, but that doesn't fulfill me like this game does on the ice. So it's always been kind of an empty feeling in the summers for me, without the game. So I'm counting down the days. It's 87 till I presume they will open. So I'm ready to go.
Yeah, I'm hoping they don't start on the West Coast again this year, because that was so deflating to start with Flyers After Dark out of the gate last year, especially with all the anticipation about seeing Michkov in action in games that count and everything. So I'm hoping we have, like, a nice, home stretch to start things out this year.
We've seen a little bit of that over the last decade where they start out west. And I will tell you that they don't mind it from an organizational standpoint a lot of time. Although last year, I don't think they would have preferred it because, again, the 𝙏𝙗𝙗 buzz was there. You want to capitalize at home as quick as possible. But getting a West Coast road trip out of the way when you don't have anything in front of it pays dividends in January, February, and March. To have that out of the way when it can really gruel you and send you into pending how you're playing and the health of your team and everything, sends you into a bit of a rough patch in your schedule. So getting that out of the way is a good thing. But yeah, I agree. From a marketing standpoint, it sucks because it is like out of sight, out of mind. The middle of Eagle season or slightly beginning of Eagle season, things are heating up there, college football and everything. So it's a tough spot to kind of go, hey, we're starting our season. Everybody's in the playoffs right now, and yeah, we're in Vancouver at 10:30 tonight, or at the Shark Tank. It's not very encapsulating to a potential hockey audience.
Yeah, and it's even worse last season because then they returned home, but I think it was like a day. They had like a day to travel back, and then I think they got shut out in their home opener. Yeah, they got shut out in the home opener. They got shut out in the home finale. I think both 3-0 losses there, which put a damper on things. But I do
remember the year when they started overseas in like the Czech Republic or whatever. They had the 2 games over there. They came back for 1 game, and then they went to like Edmonton in Alberta. It was like the first like 18 days of the season. There was 1 home game.
It was so spread out. It was so weird. I remember I went because they played that game in the Czech Republic in like the middle of the day.
Yeah.
And I took a half day at work and I went to the bar with a bunch of my buddies and we had a great time.
It was like a Thursday or Friday, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember doing the broadcast on the Fanatic and people were tweeting me like, what's hockey on? I'm like, it's a game they're playing in the Czech Republic. So it's earlier. Their time's different.
Yeah.
So.
But then all the momentum was just dead after that because it took forever for them to get on home ice.
And I think that was actually the 1920 season where they ended up really becoming a good team. Before obviously the pandemic shut everything down on March 19th, I think it was. They became a real good team. And, when the calendar flipped to 2020, they didn't lose back-to-back games until I guess technically the second round of the playoffs against the Islanders. That's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, that was that season there because that hurt them in the beginning, and then they went out on that great run in January in 2020, like you said there. So I wonder like how much better they could have been if it didn't have that. But I remember people saying like it's good to get on the road. You go on a road trip, team bonding, and usually there's a back-to-back, so there's a chance to get both goalies in there. It's not like okay, when is the backup going to start? Especially when a season upcoming, when you have Sam Ersson and now Dan Vladar in there, it's going to be like all right. Get both guys in there, get both guys into a rhythm, seeing pucks, seeing what each guy can do.
Yeah, I think it's important to get both your goalies into the action within the first 3 or 4 games because, despite what happens, in training camp and all the practices and every scrimmages and preseason games, it doesn't have nearly the same intensity as regular season hockey does. And the regular season is nearly the same intensity as postseason hockey does, as we see every year. But yeah, I think it's important to get those guys both in there early. And this year in particular, I think it's important for both those guys to get off to a good, healthy start through camp and for the team to get off to a good start and feel good about what's back there. Because I do believe that I don't believe momentum carries year to year in pro sports very often, but I think PTSD from goaltending woes like they have had the past year do carry until you're proven otherwise. And you have that PT. Are we going to get that goaltending? Can we be an offense that takes risks on the rush, take some risk for some reward? Is that guy going to be back there to bail us out? I think it starts to set the kind of tone of your season and what you can do. 2 years ago, they got off to that start and had great goaltending with Hart and Ersson, and it set them to be the second highest scoring team off the rush in the league. And then last year, you didn't get it. And they became a team that was definitely in the bottom quarter off the rush last year. And you see the effect of it. Players just aren't willing to take risk. If every time you do take a risk, it ends up, the goal horn goes off and you're pulling it out of your net. So that's going to be really important. And I'm really intrigued by this goalie situation now too, with Vladar coming in.
Well, especially when you have players like Jamie Drysdale, right? Who you've been trying to unlock that offensive component since you traded for him with the Cutter Gauthier move. And you want to see what that upper level of what he can do is. So if you can have some trust in the goaltender and somebody like Drysdale can take more risks and really play to his maximum ability, that's a great, great thing for this team.
Totally agree. Steve, I don't think I couldn't say it better. I thought Drysdale finished really strong last year in the final third, and I still feel like we haven't seen it all. I don't feel like we've seen him unlocked completely as an offensive player. Part of that was just the team wasn't very good last year. I'm not even going to say that. They stunk, especially in the second half. So until Bradshaw took over and a little pressure was relieved, and you don't know what you can take out of that. But Drysdale, to me, is one of those guys that's real important to get off to a good, again, healthy start for him and begin now to push those elements of his game to the next level. And that's got to be, that's not just a skill thing. He's got the skill. We see it, but it's got to be in here. And I'm real interested to see the dynamic of going from Bradshaw, who we all agree is a very good defensive coach, teaching the details of the position. You go to Todd Reardon. That's the good news, is that you're not going to an unknown commodity to coach those defensemen, specifically as a positional coach. You're going to a guy who's had a lot of success in Todd Reardon. He got that job in Washington after Barry Trotz left because of the job he did with their young and veteran D. So that's a good thing. But I'm interested to see Drysdale from that mental standpoint. Really want to say, you know what? I'm never going to be the greatest defender. I'm going to defend hard. I'm going to do the best I can. But I can contribute more offensively. I can push pace more. I can use my legs to be my ultimate weapon, because they're the reason I was a first-round pick and taken where I was taken, and really pushing the pace of his game.
Yeah, like obviously he's not going to be Quinn Hughes. No one is Quinn Hughes, but like we saw how Tocchet let Quinn Hughes kind of off the leash, let him do what he has to do, and like hopefully someone like Drysdale can do that, especially if he has maybe like a Nick Seeler type as his partner, a reliable guy there where he knows that he can take that risk, and you have that goalie that can make saves, because last year you had no idea what you were going to get. But I think the one big thing
we did have an idea, it wasn't good.
The one big thing I think that Dan Vladar brings, and like he's not great, 895 career save percentage, which I would love to see after the past few years in that. But like last year especially, he did not get pulled one time. I went through his game log. He did not get pulled one time. And the Flyers, their goalies combined for 90 games. So there were 8 games where a goalie was pulled or an injury replacement. So like Sam Ersson can be on the bench now and be like, all right, this guy's going to go out there and play the 60 minutes. I don't have to be ready if Fedotov's going to give up 3 goals on his first 5 shots and have to go in there.
Holy hell, you just brought up a point I didn't even think of. When a goalie has the night off, or it's not my start tonight, he's got the crease, the other guy, you do want to have that faith that guy, it's not a night off for the goalie if he's worried that guy's going to get hooked in the first period because he hasn't been good. He's going to give up 2 or 3 goals on the first 7 shots, and you can just tell by looking at him, dude's not on his game. He's got to get out. That doesn't do a goalie any good in resting, because you got to stay, no matter what, you got to stay sharp as a backup, because obviously you can be in there at the drop of a dime, injury or whatever it is. But, you got to be able to rest too. So you see some teams carrying 3 goalies, and they bring that third goalie in sometimes just to let like a guy like 𝙏𝙏𝙏𝙏𝙀, who plays a ton, and he doesn't even dress when he's not playing, because they just want him to have a total night off, because he's going to carry such a heavy load. Now, neither of these goalies are going to carry that kind of load, Ersson or Dan Vladar, but I just loved what Vladar said in his press availability when he was introduced about how much am I going to play? It's going to depend on how I play. There was like no entitlement in anything he said. It was the exact opposite. Everything will be earned by me or Sam, and that's the way it should be. And coming off a season where I felt there was a tremendous amount of entitlement coming from a guy who had no record or history to be entitled, in Kolosov, saying, I want to be an NHL. Well, so everybody wants to be an NHLer. No kidding. But you got to earn your way. And he just didn't seem like he pouted when he wasn't here, or he was the third guy. So to see that out of Vladar, I go, him and Ersson are going to push each other in a healthy tandem way, which is great.
I really like the 2-year deal for Vladar here, because it also gives time to develop some of the prospects you have right there. Carson Bjarnason is the one who's closest to maybe being in the show at this point. And yeah, I just like having that kind of time to figure out if he's somebody that can be your guy, maybe, on a more full-time basis moving forward.
Yeah, it's key years for Bjarnason, right? I mean, he moves to the pro game now. out of junior, had a good year last year. He's really developed well year after year. And like, I will tell you guys, like seeing him from when he was first drafted at development camp to last year and now to this year, the dude has put in some off ice work, man. He shed all the pseudo baby fat, if you will, and replaced it with muscle, properly placed muscle to it. With the goalie, you got to be a little careful in how you do that because you don't want to lose, the ability to be kind of pliable is maybe the right word, and to be able to put your body in those positions and use your size to its full effectiveness. And he's got that. So yeah, I like that window too of 2 years. And it's like Vladar, like if this guy, if he's ready next year, Bjarnason, I think that's too fast by what we've seen so far. But if he is, then you can find a way to move something too with Vladar. So I think it's a good situation. And you have Zvragin, obviously, who's got 2 years left on his deal there. You see where he is. If Vladar comes in and blows you away and takes the number one job, and then you pay him. It's not complicated, right? Or if Ersson does that, you pay him. But are those going to do that? We don't know. We'll find out. The commitment's not huge, so you didn't lock yourself in. That's the one thing I like that Danny did this offseason was the lack of tenure he gave out. Yeah. To me, a team that's on an ascension, that's key because you're going to have to pivot through this whole thing as you get, okay, we're a little bit better now, but we need this. We have a little too much of this, so let's take that away and add what we need. Where we're redundant, we can shed some, and maybe that comes at an Owen Tippett or a Bobby Brink or something like that to get what you need. And then you're going to get into being a playoff team, and you're going to go, no, maybe we need more size, or we need more skill in the wing, or we need more of this in the center position, or D, whatever. And you're going to have to keep pivoting. Like these rebuilds, it's not like you rebuild the team and here's what you got and good luck. I mean, look at Florida pulling guys off waivers, trading a guy who was a Hart candidate in 𝙗𝙗 to get Matthew Tkachuk, who changed everything about the team on and off the ice. I mean, those are the pivots that are going to have to take place. And when you lock guys into too much term, they're hard to move, and you're in a set it and forget it mode. Can't do that.
The one team that has done that, where they give out those long-term deals to the best player available, not the best player when he's available, as you always say, is the Red Wings. They went out, JT Compher, Andrew Kopp, Ben Sherratt, like they signed these guys that just, 5-year deals, $5 million. But 1 year for Dvorak, $5.4 million. A lot of people were like, oh, that's too much, but it doesn't matter this year. It's one year. You have to get a center that can, replace Ryan Poehling, win faceoffs. You played for Tocchet before, like everything.
You move him to the wing.
You can move him to the wing and have Cates at center, be a great shutdown duo there. Like everything that Briere has said about the offseason, everything I've heard from Vladar and Dvorak just makes me like it more and more.
Yeah, I'd rather play Christian Dvorak 1 year times 5.4 than I would 2 years at 3.8. I just would, because of the 1 year. Flyers aren't in the mix at the deadline. People are always looking for a center that can win key draws, kill penalties. He's an easy trade, and you just retain on him. It's only for the year. Who cares? You retain half of what's remaining. Doesn't matter. And probably get a second round pick out of it, So I don't see the downside. I knew there was, sticker shock there, and I get it. Looking at his numbers and going, that's a lot of money. But we got to get over sticker shock in the rising cap world, because it's not about the number. It's about percentage of cap. And even though it's going to go up this offseason, it's going to continue to rise. That sticker shock's going to throw some people off at times. When you see how much a guy gets paid, like a $10 million player is not a $10 million player 5 years ago, where it was, 12% of your cap. Now it's like 8.5% of your cap. So that's like a $7.5 million player 5 years ago. So I don't know if my math is good there or not, but they said
it sounds good to me. I mean,
we'll go with it. We'll go with it.
But you guys know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm on the same page. I'm not good with math either. So that's why I'm a podcaster, right? I'm not.
That's how I ended up here.
Yeah, exactly.
I originally declared as forestry, and they're like, you got to take all these math and science classes. Like, I'm no longer enrolled in forestry. I'll tell you that.
And that's why I'm out on this one. Yeah, and I like that Dvorak signing just because of, Ryan, you mentioned trading away Ryan Poehling, which is one of those moves. It's like we all like Ryan Poehling a lot. He's a really useful player on any team. Any team could use a Ryan Poehling. We all like him at the bottom of the lineup. But Danny said it. in the press conference after they made the Zegras trade, he's a bottom 6 player ultimately. And if that's the big price you have to pay to get a guy like Trevor Zegras, you do it, because that's a real opportunity to have a guy, high-end skill guy that can play in your top 6. And I'm really a fan of that move. Jason, what were your thoughts on the Zegras move?
It's such an interesting move. The more I think about it, my initial thing was, oh, that's all they had to give up, And I agree. Poehling is a very useful hockey player. Can fill a lot of, those bottom 6 and less glorious jobs of a player on a team, killing penalties. I think his value is probably max of what it's ever going to be because of the way he finished last year offensively. So maybe his value was a little inflated for what he is overall for Poehling. But to get Zegras for what you gave up in the final year of an RFA deal, Mike Richards talked about this on Nasty Knuckles about when a young player gets traded for the first time, how it can set you straight in a lot of ways. And him going from the West Coast to the East Coast, he's an East Coast guy. When I met him down in Atlantic City, he drove down with his mom 2.5 hours from New York. So he understands East Coast mentality and everything. And he's got 2 buddies here, obviously, in Cam York and Jamie Drysdale, who he gets along beautifully with. And I think that's great. I think you're just going to get the best of the player. Can he get back to being that guy who's got 2 60-point seasons before he was 24 years of age? Again, absolutely. It just needs to be put in the right situations, play with the right players, and regain some confidence in both his game and I think his body, and just being healthy, being available. If he can do that, then hey, let's talk extension, son.
Yeah, I really think the Zegras trade flew under the radar too, which kind of has been Danny Briere's whole thing. Like when making trades, the timing of it right before the draft, it's like, all right, yeah, we got Trevor Zegras, nice trade. Let's focus on the draft. Talk about Martone versus Hagens, all that stuff. But like giving up Poehling, yeah, he's going to be great in Anaheim. But 60-point players are hard to come by. The Flyers have
when they're under 24. He's got 2 of those seasons under 24.
Yeah, the Flyers have only had Giroux, Voracek, Konechny, Simmons, and Couturier, 5 players to have multi 60-point seasons since 2013, and then 1 for Gostisbehere, and then 1 for Michkov last year. Like, it's hard to find 60-point players in this league. Last year, there were only 85 of them. And then you look at a guy like Poehling, who, 30 points, maybe 40 points. There's 200 of those guys in the NHL. Like Zegras' ceiling is so much higher than, I don't know if just fans just don't want to get too excited over it, and they're like kind of comparing him to Morgan Frost or whatever. But like Morgan Frost was a 40-point player. Like Zegras can be 60, maybe even 70 or more if he's on a line with Michkov.
Yeah, I mean, if he can hit the next stage in his development and go to that level he was at and beyond, then you're talking about a 70, possibly a point per game player. And there's no denying the skills. I mean, we've been talking about the need for high-end talent. There's no doubt that he's got high-end talent. I mean, you go down a YouTube rabbit hole, he's disgusting hands. They're disgusting. Like, he is forget the Michigan goals and all that stuff. I just mean his ability to distribute the puck, see the ice, and work offensively. Is he a winger or a center? We'll find out. I have some reservations about him at the center position because I'd rather him leading a rush, and that defensive responsibility, playing below the dots as a center, doesn't allow you to lead the rush a lot. So we'll see where he ultimately fits in with a really good team that, and if he's on the wing or at center, but he's definitely got the skill and stuff. And I think it's in there. It's just a question of it. Can he bring it back out? And does he bring it back out here?
Yeah, I'm really hoping he can, especially.
Me too.
I love the idea of pairing Matvei Michkov up with other high skill guys. I think that's one of the things we saw last year, where he's got this level of creativity that we don't necessarily have with the Flyers, the players to kind of match what he's doing out there. So more guys who can kind of think on his level and work creatively with the puck like that, the better.
Absolutely. And the thing is, you look at those 2 players and why are they good offensively? Yeah, the skill, but it's the lack of predictability, I think, with both of them that really, like with Michkov, that's a huge thing. You just don't, I don't even know what position he plays once you get over the red line. It doesn't matter. he's positionless. He's like a positionless NBA player. He just goes to where he can do the most damage, whether that's below the circles, but below the goal line, frankly. I've never seen a guy attempt more shots to score when his feet are below the goal line than him. The way he moves to the middle of the ice, and if he and 𝙒𝙗 just have that kind of unspoken connection offensively on the ice, that'll be really dangerous. Now, you are going to have to put him with a forward with a little bit of size and good defensive responsibility. And that doesn't have to be a center if 𝙒𝙗 is playing center. That can be a winger. Look at Mark Stone. You know, you can have those players. Like, just because a player's a winner doesn't mean he can't take faceoffs and he can't be defensively responsible. Doesn't matter. A guy like Tyson Forster's really good in board battles, heavy stick in there, would be a natural player on a line with 𝙒𝙗, Forster, and Michkov, to me. Not only that, but Forster's got a bomb of a shot. Imagine the space that he'll get playing with a dialed-in 𝙒𝙗, Michkov, and that unpredictability. I mean, I think that he's just going to get, if he just gets to good ice and becomes an option, they're going to get it to him, and he can unleash that shot. So I think I'd love to see that line, like, immediately, if not sooner.
Yeah, that sounds like an amazing line. Like, if Forster is healthy to start the season, like, yeah, give me that. That's a top line. That can be a top line in the NHL, not just a top line for the Flyers, a top line across the league. And
that's a line when they jump over the boards, you move to the edge of your seat.
Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah, that's a line that the opposing team has to game plan for. The Flyers have not had that since probably Claude Giroux, Couturier, and whoever was on that wing with them. Like,
I think the Voracek line, like, that was pretty dominant when those three were together for a bit.
Yeah, and you'd rotate that third guy, whether it was Simmons or, somebody else would move into that role early on, maybe Matt Reed or, those guys going back a little bit further. But, yeah, I mean, like Reed, he put up good points because those guys took up so much of the focus of defending that he just put himself in good places and became the benefactor of it. How many guys has Crosby done that for, right? If you can play with Crosby, like if you know where to go and think like him, and you just go to the right spots, you're going to score 30 because he's just going to put it on a tee for you.
Yeah, Olympian Chris Kunitz, you can talk about there.
Bingo.
Beat me to it.
Great example. Great example.
Yeah, and even if 𝙒𝙗 and Michkov don't play together at 5-on-5, like, I feel like we can finally be excited about the power play. You got 𝙒𝙗, you got Michkov, you got Konechny, Drysdale can maybe get up there.
I think change in coaching too.
I think York there too.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say, I think I heard you talking about it. Like, York can now have a coach that doesn't hate him and maybe can play power play.
Yeah, I mean, he's done it every other level and been successful at it, right? Why not in the NHL? He just hasn't maybe had the right opportunity on a power play that was struggled, and because it struggled so bad over the last, it feels like forever. The need to just start changing things all the time took place because the results weren't good, and frankly, it just. As bad as the results were and the rankings and the numbers on the power play, they were hideous. But I thought it looked even worse than the numbers at times. Like, it was like, oh my God, like, this is just painful. And I don't want to hear a lack of talent when I see teams that had less talent ranked 20th in the league in the power play. You know what I mean? So I think you got a lot of options there with a 𝙒𝙗, obviously with a Michkov, with a Konechny. Where does Couturier fit into that from a draw standpoint? Or, who else falls in that? Forster's a guy that can be on a power play. Tippett's a guy that can be on a power play. You got some options there. Brink, probably a power play 2 type situation.
I like Brink. I like his offensive, creativity a lot. I think he's right. He's not quite at Michkov's level, obviously, but he's one of the more creative guys on the team when it comes
underrated distributor.
Yes, totally I agree. I totally agree. And it's unfortunate that, like, when you're thinking about this team moving into the next phase of this rebuild, that Brink's one of those guys that you don't really think of in that future, like, as much as you think of those other guys. What are you thinking right now as far as, like, Brink and, like, where his future is with the Flyers currently?
It's a good question. And I think a big part of that is just the logjam almost that you have at the right wing position. You have so much on the right side. And you wonder, okay, does somebody have to go? And if somebody does have to go, who's the most likely? Because, you're not going to trade Konechny. He's got no move. Tippett, not going anywhere, at least not right now. And I mean, the right side's pretty jammed up. So is he the odd man out? Maybe he is, maybe he's not. Can you find another Brink? Probably, but you'd like to find the left side Bobby Brink, to put it in your third line or whatever, however you choose to utilize him. So I think he's kind of in this kind of murky territory because of all the right wingers that are already here and maybe on the come as well. So, and then there's guys that are going to start fighting for that left side too, like Bump, and which I'm excited to see what his camp's like. So where does Brink fit in is a good question. His game's really come a long way since he had that hip fixed. Like, let's face it, his skating stride is never going to be pretty. It's a very awkward skating stride. But he always seems to get to the right spot, doesn't he? He thinks the game well, and he goes to the really dirty areas for an undersized guy. So, and sometimes you got to give up something to get something. So maybe he's part of some kind of package that helps you somewhere else positionally where you're not as redundant.
Yeah, that right-hand side is like, because Konechny, 𝙏𝙗, Brink, Tippett, they all prefer the right-hand side, and none of them are really they're not fourth-line players. Maybe Brink is a third-line player, but maybe 𝙏𝙗 does go to the left side as positionless. They had Konechny on the left side at some points last year with Couturier and 𝙏𝙗. I could see that. But yeah, I mean, the right side is jammed back there, and Brink seems to be the default guy that fans just throw into these packages for a center or defenseman or what have you.
Yeah. It's just it's kind of the knee-jerk reaction. Well, I'll just deal him. I mean, a lot of people just wanted to fire Tippett into the sun this summer too. But like with that, I say just be careful, because if he can put it together, and Bill and I talked about it on today's Flyers Daily, like, it's time to put it all together for him. And he could be a 35-goal scorer. He's a guy that can take over a game. Is he ever going to be super consistent? No. But I swear, I believe this with every fiber of my being. He just doesn't know how good he is, or how good he can be, or how dominant he can be. To me, with him, it's nothing physical. It's all his belief in between his ears. He is a really shy, quiet guy. Great guy. But he needs a little bit of swagger, a little bit of cockiness, to know that he can dictate the turn. I mean, to be as big and strong as he is and be able to skate like that. Like I said to his face, I said, I would love to put on a pair of skates and just see what it feels like to skate like you. You know what I mean?
Oh, he flies out there.
Oh, he flies. He's one of the fastest guys in the league. Can play at speed too.
He's got to be one of the fastest flyers I have ever seen.
He had the most burst over 22 miles an hour of any player in the league last year, and that included Connor McDavid.
No, when he's on, he is unbelievable. And I think about that Columbus game, that 4-point Columbus game last year was ridiculous performance when he did that spinorama goal against the Dallas Stars. He's got it in him, and if he can put it together more consistently, it's such a valuable part of the team. And that contract could be a discount for the Flyers if he truly lives up to it. But yeah, I agree. The swagger, the chip on the shoulder, they need more of that in general. You see it a little bit of with 𝙏𝙗. 𝙏𝙗 definitely brings some swagger to the game. And then Alex Bump, who you just mentioned a few minutes ago, and we talked about him at the prospect camp. He's a guy who has already shown a bit of a chip on his shoulder, talking trash in the AHL, playing one playoff game. So, what do you think about Bump's game and him potentially making the team next season?
I think he's got a real chance. He played a few regular season games, got off to a good start in the playoffs. Hershey kind of took him away a little bit, maybe keyed on him a little bit more. So he's got that adjustment. And I talked to him last week. I sat down with him and talked about, he's playing at Western Michigan in national championship, Frozen Four, how crazy that was. And in short order, he went right from that to the AHL. And he said the difference was enormous, in playing against pro players. And, college is a lot of older guys. It's not a lot of natural, like, true freshmen in college hockey unless you're a freak. And so they're all like 22, 23-year-old guys who, they went and played in the BCHL or the NAHL, got a D1 ride and went that way. So he's used to playing against some bigger guys, but he said it was a big jump. But I think taking that experience he had last year into his summer is huge, to know what to expect coming into camp this year. So he's one of the biggest storylines at camp for me. To keep an eye on, to see where he is. I really liked him watching him play both in college a little bit. I won't say a ton that I watched him, but watching him with the Phantoms, I really liked where he went on the ice offensively when he didn't have the puck. I just liked the areas that he just always seemed to migrate to good ice. He didn't go to bad ice and hide. A lot of guys will do that when they make a jump, like a level jump. They just feel like, okay, I'll go to a safe place, not an accountable place. He just seemed to, out of intuition, just go to the right spots on the ice when he didn't have the puck to make the other team have to account for him, even though he wasn't really a huge threat with what he was doing. So, and that's important. So I really liked that aspect of his game. And I think it'll be an important detail for him at the pro game. Physically, he has put on a ton of muscle over the last 2 years. He looks like a totally different guy. His body is ready for the NHL. And if Forster's not going to start the season, there's an opportunity in front of him. And I fully expect, in talking to him and kind of seeing the way he carries himself, that he's going to look at that opportunity and say, I'm going to go get it. I love what he said in his availability, too, when they said, why didn't you sign your ELC? And he said, I thought it was more important to play important games than it was to just start my contract. That's a guy who's got his hockey development more in focus than he does getting to free agency down the line.
Yeah.
Love it. Yeah, I really thought that was like, that's a mature decision.
Yeah, everything about Alex Bump, like he's a shot first player. Like I watched some of his games. He had like 10 shots in a game. He'd just be shooting. And you talking about him getting to the middle of the ice, like especially if Forster's out, I would love to see him playing on a line with 𝙏𝙗𝙆𝙏. Get to the middle. 𝙏𝙗𝙆𝙏 had so many times last season where he put the puck in the slot and no one was there. No one could handle it. Well, it was Frost, Tippett, whoever it was. And
because somebody was meandering on the outside and being inconsequential, right? And the other thing, like, look, if Bump makes the team, there's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be an adjustment for him. He's going to have some times where he looks really good, and then there's going to be some periods where you're like, whoa, he doesn't look ready. But you got to ride through him, and he's got to learn from him. That's what about you being a young player and adjusting your game to the pro game is all about. But I like what you're going in with from a mentality standpoint and an attitude standpoint with him. Like, we talked a lot about culture in the last 2 years and kind of taking guys away that didn't fit the timeline, either on or off the ice and that stuff. But he's a guy that fits into this new culture that they've built to a T, as does Dan Vladar. And, you know, accountability is either for no one or everyone, or it's for no one. And I just think he fits in that way too. He's going to earn everything he gets, and he'll equally earn everything he doesn't get, you know? So I'd like to see that kind of body with 𝙏𝙗𝙆𝙏 on the other wing too, because I think he's a guy who can go in and win board battles for him.
So with Bump, do you think if Forster's healthy or if he can't win like a top 6 spot, do you think the Flyers would keep him to play bottom 6, potentially 4th line, or would they have him go play big minutes with the Phantoms?
I think it'd be an option, but it also depends on Jet where that goes. And the Lechenko decision is got a lot of factors to it and a lot of fallout, because if you keep Lechenko, then you're looking at either putting Cates or Dvorak on a wing. And so what is the trickle down effect of that? If Bump can come in and play, I don't look at their 3rd and 4th line as necessarily a 3rd and 4th line. It's kind of like a 3rd line and a 3B. Because I think that 4th line is going to, see 14 minutes of ice time. And is that enough for Bump? I think so. And if he's really playing well, hey, he moves up and he gets to 16, 17 minutes of ice time. Does he kill penalties? That's obviously an ice time thing too. Dvorak's going to get minutes killing penalties. So where he fits in that regard will be part of the equation also. And Lechenko just affects a lot of it. When you're making that decision on Lechenko, you got to go, okay, is it best for his development to be playing at the NHL? Maybe he only plays 62 games. He doesn't even play all the time. But is that better, playing 62 games in a 3C, 4C role for him, more advantageous to his development than going back to Guelph? I think it is. We'll see. He'll have to prove that in camp. But I think it is, because he's got a really mature game. And I don't think coming to the NHL and playing that role in 3rd, 4th line situations, killing penalties, using his speed is going to stunt his development, because he's not put in enough situations to just blossom offensively. I don't think that'll hurt him. So I think that's got to be part of the equation for Lechenko.
He's one of those guys I really wish could just play with the Phantoms. The Phantoms would be such a good spot for
or
him
in
right
college,
now.
Right?
Right.
Like, I just wish he hadn't signed that ELC now, because I'd be shipping him right up to Penn State to play with McKenna, and maybe with Martone.
Get the whole gang together.
Yeah, let's go with the Flyers line for Penn State to a national title. I'm all for it.
Oh, love it. Love it. So we're just talking about Bump. Another interesting name on the Phantoms for potentially winger spot with the Flyers in the next season or two would be Gulbenkian. How are you feeling about Gulbenkian right now, and where do you think he fits with the Bump conversation?
I think he's part of the equation too, for a couple of reasons. One, because he just looks like he's kind of proven enough in the AHL to be an NHL player. And two, he's a big body. He seems like, I haven't met him yet, he seems like a really fun guy. I heard he's an absolute beauty in the room. Teammates love him. Hilarious guy. But he just looks ready. So if he's ready, do you say, okay, we'll be a little bit more patient with Bump because he doesn't have the NHL time that Gulbenkian has, and maybe you don't risk Bump? You go, it's always better to overcook than undercook. Or does Bump just blow you away and you go, sorry, Gulbenkian, like you're going to have to, circumstances going to have to necessitate your call up. So we'll see. It's going to be one of those battles in camp that's going to be really interesting with Gulbenkian, because to me, he looks really ready. He looked good in the playoffs too, didn't he? That big frame down around the net, mixes it up. I think you need guys like him.
Power play in particular.
Yeah, he looked really good there on that flank on the left side. So yeah, he's got some finish in him too. So can put it in close. We've got, for a big guy, he's got good hands, and so yeah, he's another guy that's part of the equation and the intrigue of this camp moving forward. It's weird because it feels like they had no players for so long, and now all of a sudden it feels like you got all these decisions that are not easy ones to make.
Yeah, I was surprised that Gulbenkian didn't get any NHL time last year, but I mean, it probably was better for him, like Bump said, to go to the AHL, play those important games.
I think with him, like I had like dug in on that a little bit. I think with him, they just wanted to settle him into one change of environment and not be pulling him back and forth, just to help him get comfortable. I think that's what went into that more. I think they would have been fine calling him up for a game with the Flyers, but I just didn't think they wanted to mess with that a whole lot last year.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense, especially if there was something brewing, like, because that was before Torts was fired. Like the trade deadline was before that, so you don't know how that was going, how Torts would have treated him. You didn't want any of that. But like you said, there's so many moving parts in this camp. There's like, even without the forced injury, you got Bump, you got Gulbenkian, you got
Martone. Where's
Martone as well. Another guy with swagger that wants to play in the NHL. And I've heard you talk about it on Flyers Daily. Fans are like, oh, you don't, to give him what he wants. You don't want another Cutter Gauthier situation. But like Martone, there's such an interesting conversation about him, because I've heard some agents say, playing 60 games in the CHL is better than playing 30 in college, especially for bigger bodies like him. But I know his team is going to be pretty decimated even if he does play. So yeah, where do you think Martone ends up this year?
It's a great question. I don't know the answer, because I think the two options from going back to the CHL, I don't think is a good option for him. I think he could just develop bad habits there. His game is beyond that. He's so big. He's going to dominate that league, and he's not going to be pushed. Like, I think he can be, I'd love to see him go to the AHL, but what's the next best thing for him to play with players of a bigger physical stature? It's the NCAA. But if he's going to the NCAA, he can't go to camp. So you got to come up to, they're already in classes, right? You can't be a matriculating student and go to Flyers training camp. So you kind of got to make that decision soon. What is he going to do? Is he going to go to the college route? Do you want to see what he does here and maybe give him that audition like you gave Lechenko last year and send him back to junior? I don't know. What's the right thing for the player in the long term to get him to where you want him to get to? To me, if I had to make the decision, I'd like to see him go the collegiate route, and when his collegiate season's over, sign an ELC and either come up and play for the Flyers or play for the Phantoms for the rest of the year. I think that's, I don't want to say safest route, but smartest route, considering you have to figure that out before they go to camp.
Play with a little bit of talent and 𝙏𝙗𝙎𝙏 McKenna there, no big deal.
Again, yeah. I mean, I think
if he goes
beautifully if he went to Penn State, and it's not far away. Easy to have, the Flyers coaches, come up and meet with Guy Gadowski, and just a 3-hour drive, turnpike to 322, you're good to go.
Sounds like a nice road trip for everybody, right?
Just easy now. When I was in school, it sucked because the 322 expansion wasn't done. It was like one lane for a bunch of that. Now they did that whole expansion. It's like breezing through there. It's not 20 minutes, 25 minutes off the drive when they did that.
That's a significant chunk right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's all go. Let's make a big old road trip down to Penn State if Martone's there. Yeah. Let's not waste our time if he's not there.
Yeah.
See, just 𝙏𝙗𝙎𝙏 McKenna. No big deal. So Martone obviously was your headliner from the draft this year. Jack Nesbitt, there's been a mixed reaction, to put it kindly, to that selection as their other first-round pick. What are your thoughts on Nesbitt? Do you think people are being too hard on this pick, or do you think that's the right amount of criticism so far?
Well, I mean, a lot of scouts on Twitter these days, boys. A lot of scouts.
Sure are.
I am not a scout. And, I don't follow these guys closely, and I certainly don't talk to their coaches or, I see the highlights like everybody else, and I love highlights. They're great. I put a lot of value in when a player makes a mistake, what happens on the bench when he goes back, or how he plays the rest of the game after he makes a mistake or he's not playing well. How coachable is he? Is he a whiner or is he a winner? How does he treat the trainers? How does he treat his teammates? Is he a sponge for coach? Like, all those things I think are important. And by all accounts, he wouldn't have been there for the Flyers at 22. I think in a draft where you have those multiple picks in the first round, and when you land a player like Martone, which you feel like is pretty much, you feel really comfortable that he's going to be a really good player, you can take a little bit of risk with a second first-round pick. You have to do that from time to time. They identified a player they really liked in Nesbitt. They went up and they got him. I'd rather take the 12th player on the board over 22 and 31 combined every day of the week and twice on Sunday, every time. So they end up with Nesbitt. He's a bit of a project. There's a lot of really good parts about his game, so we'll see. But we're going to have to be patient. We're not going to be able to make up a determination in just a year or two with him. The skating's got to be fixed. He's got to get much more efficient in the way he moves on the ice. Arms are just flying all over the place. He's long, which is good, but he's got to get the body under control. And as he matures and puts more man muscle on, he'll do that. And obviously a lot of it's going to be up to him on how he develops too. So I didn't have a problem with it. You just have to, again, do you believe in the GM or not? Is it guaranteed to be right if you believe in the GM? No. But you got to take a swing sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, for sure.
Yeah, you if you get a top 12 pick, I mean, yeah, you said it there. It's you have to go for it, and it's not the exciting thing. It's not one of the top skill wingers that they could have gone for, but they needed a center, and even if he is just a 3C at some point, like, you can see why Briere made the move. You can see why they went out and got this guy. Yeah. It's not like, and even last year with 𝙒𝙏𝙏𝙏, like, 𝙒𝙏𝙏𝙏 was ranked 7th by Bob McKenzie in his final ranking. Yeah. 5 other teams passed on him. Yeah, and everyone's like, "Oh, why'd you take Jet over him?" Well, why'd these other 5 teams pass on him as well? Like, there's a lot we don't know.
Yeah, people go, "Why'd you passed on 𝙏𝙏𝙏𝙏?" Well, dude, last I checked, a lot of teams passed on 𝙏𝙏𝙏𝙏𝙏. Like, no, I mean, like in Weem, like he's like settle. Like, he may be a really good player. He looked like he ran all over the place last year when he got into the NHL. Very little structure, but we'll see how he develops. Again, I'm not going to judge him on just last year. I'm going to judge him after he gets to 200 or 300 games, to see what he is. And we'd love to so many people just love to, like, pin a moniker on a guy that's 18 years old and this is what he is and it's all he'll ever be. Well, there's guys like, Nikita Kucherov or Braden Point or Kirill Kaprizov was taken in the 5th round, or Joe Pavelski was taken in the 7th round, that like to argue that.
Yeah.
Or Artemi Panarin wasn't drafted.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm Sergei Bobrovsky, right? It's a different position, but I mean, come on. I mean, they did find a guy there. Didn't hold on to him, but they found a guy there. But yeah, I mean, like, you're right. You got to be patient. Clearly they saw something that they felt the need to move up and get him in particular. You like the size. I guess we're going to see on that front. I think one of the most interesting rookies that we're talking about, outside of the Martone, obviously, and, we mentioned Bump, Oliver Bonk is hitting that point right now where he's not quite, it doesn't feel like he's quite ready to make that leap to the NHL. And if you look at the defensive structure, there's not really like that much space for him right now. But you think in the next couple of years, he's probably going to be there. He's going to be with the Phantoms. What do you see in Bonk's game right now, and what do you think of his timeline?
I absolutely need to see what he is in the AHL for a minimum of a season, maybe more. And then you go from there. Defense long guys especially take a little bit longer. So, yeah, he's got to adjust to the pro game. He was in a great program, obviously, in London. Great situation for him to prepare him for it. But, again, we got to see what he does in the AHL. He's not one of those top of the draft right shot Ds. So it takes a little time. And I know people lack patience. I do too. But you're just going to have to be patient to see what is it, pro timeline looks like.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking a ton about the forwards there and the goalies, but we haven't really touched on the defense at all. And you mentioned it today, Rasmus Ristolainen, not gonna start the season. He's gonna be injured, and he's a player you don't know what you can rely on him for. And Noah Juulsen signed him for a 1-year deal. Tocchet guy coming over from Vancouver. People are penciling him in as a 7, but he's the Risto replacement. He's going to be in the starting lineup opening night, I believe. Do you think they're done on defense? Do you think can a Hunter McDonald come up, or is it going to be Sanheim, York, Sealer, Drysdale, Zamula, Juulsen to start? You think
Grans is another guy? Yeah, I think Grans guy can be in the mix as well. He came up last year. I don't think he looked out of place at all. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think he's the guy that's in that mix too.
Yeah, I guess that makes Juulsen like the bar where if he's better than Juulsen, Juulsen's the 7, and Grans can make it because exactly. He came up last year. He looked fine there, so I would not mind that at all. Another piece from that Ivan Provorov trade. Just what a deal there.
No doubt.
Yeah, love that Provorov trade. Just keeps on giving. What a fantastic deal right there. So, talking a lot about development. We're talking a lot about the Phantoms, right? And they have a new coach today, John Snowden. What do we think of Snowden?
I don't know much about him, but kind of turn over the staff, and I know Nick Schultz is going to go on the bench there as well. So, I mean, it's an important job because you have so many guys down there that you're hoping turn into viable NHL players. So I hope he goes down there and does a great job and continues to develop those guys, and with the same organizational philosophy of accountability and everything.
Yeah, I mean, I just want the Phantoms to develop all these. They have so many names going in the pipeline in the next couple of seasons that it's going to be really crucial to nail the development on these guys.
Absolutely. It's just such a key element of it. You got to make sure drafting the right guys is great. Not developing them is a crime. So they got to make sure they do that.
Yeah. One thing you mentioned last time you were on with us was about how the U.S. National Team Development Program, how, with Farabee and York, you're unsure. I'm not sure, maybe paraphrasing here, you're unsure how the Flyers feel about them. And they dipped into that for the draft with Nesbitt, with a few other guys. Were you surprised by that at all? Or do you think it's, kind of a case-by-case basis?
I think it's case-by-case for sure. Because there's a decent run of issues of guys that come out of there a little entitled. But in this situation, it wasn't a great year from an NTDP class standpoint. So I think it is case by case.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. It's a player by player like that. That's where U.S. players go. That's the best place for them to go to grow their game. So that makes a lot of sense. And with the Phantoms, they look like a young team. Do you feel like that would impact the 4C battle? Like Carson Dorwert's been mentioned a few times by Briere. You got Rodrigo Abel's there, or is that not even worth worrying about at this point?
Yeah, I don't think those guys are part of the equation right now. I really don't. I think Danny mentions them. That's good. It's motivating for them, but I don't think they're really part of the equation.
Yeah.
Really I don't believe that. Yeah.
There's just so many good young names in the mix right now, and there's just a lot of excitement. I can't wait for this camp. I can't remember being this excited for a Flyers camp.
Yeah, I'm ready. Let's go.
Yeah. Let's go. So how are you feeling about next season right now? I
don't know yet.
Yeah.
I'm just starting to get Bill and I started to set the standard for it, get our expectations in order, gotta get all the question marks, feel like the known commodities. So I'm not there yet. I'm not sure. They're going to be improved. There's no doubt, but how improved is the question.
Yeah.
And goaltending and power play are two huge factors. I don't know yet.
You said it, goaltending, power play. That's if you have good goaltending, power play, you're a good coach. If you don't, you're a bad coach. That's just what you rely on there. And I mean, you mentioned it, Dorwart and ابل's not in the conversation, and it's amazing the Flyers have gone from having like no center depth to 4 or 5 centers, including Luchenko.
Viable.
Viable centers that can win faceoffs, that can be guys there. So very excited for the season here. Should be plenty of storylines to follow here in camp. You have any closing thoughts here before we let you go?
No, I'm just ready to get it all started and let's get this thing back on the ice. We got some time, so enjoy the summer, but it'll be here before you know it. I mean, we're mid-July now, so it's not that far off.
Absolutely. So thanks again here for joining us, Jason. I mean, I'm sure everyone already listens to Flyers Daily and whatnot, but a great listen throughout the summer. All your 101s are fantastic. So
awesome.
Yeah. So
I appreciate it. I love coming on with you guys, and we'll do it again very soon for sure.
Yeah, sounds good. All right. Make sure you follow us on all the socials. Follow Jason, follow Steve, follow myself. And until next time, thanks for listening.